Welcome back to this episode of ISV Talks. I'm Carol Livingston from Dynamics Connections. And on this episode, we have Alan Whitehouse and Stephanie Assad from True Sky. True Sky is a corporate performance management software that does both budgeting, planning, and forecasting, as well as reporting, dashboards, and analytics. And Alan and Stephanie discuss how companies are implementing a budget strategy to budget more quickly and more frequently with a higher impact. So please welcome Alan and Stephanie. Well, welcome to this episode of ISV Talks. And on this episode, I have folks from True Sky. I have Alan Whitehouse, who's the Chief Software Architect at True Sky, and Stephanie Assad, who's our channel manager there. So welcome, guys.
Hey, Carol.
Hi, Carol.
So why don't you do an introduction of yourself? Alan, you want to start?
Yeah, I'm Alan Whitehouse. I am the Chief Software Architect at True Sky. So I'm the one that is responsible for trying to figure out the direction of the product, where we take features, how do we match features to what partners and customers are looking for, and make sure that all gets implemented, tested, and rolled out to the marketplace.
Awesome. And Stephanie?
Yeah, so I'm Stephanie Assad. I'm the channel manager. So basically responsible for managing our partner program, kind of the direction of that, recruiting new partners, and ensuring that our existing partners have everything that they need to be successful.
Oh, thank you. Tell me a little bit more about how the company started.
So True Sky actually came out of a Dynamics VAR. The owners of True Sky had a GP consulting firm for about 30 years. And as part of that company, they sold and implemented a lot of different budgeting and reporting and forecasting solutions. So about 10 years ago, they said, we can build something better and more robust. So they built True Sky, taking their experience with the budgeting tools, implementing ERPs, and creating something like True Sky. So about 4 years ago, they sold the consulting firm, and now we're focused full time on True Sky and budgeting and reporting.
Tell me, how did the True Sky name originate?
Well, that's an interesting story. So when we were brainstorming names for the company, we were kicking around a lot of different ideas. And at the end, we kind of stumbled upon the concept of, what are people doing when they're doing budgeting and forecasting and planning? Well, you're trying to shoot for that blue sky, what's the best you can hit? But we also realized that you need to kind of have an element of truth to your budget and your forecast. Otherwise, it doesn't get you anywhere when it comes to making plans for your business. So we kind of combine those two, and that's where we came, instead of blue sky, True Sky. So shooting for that true, that blue sky, but having that element of truth with it.
I like it. So what's kind of the basic description of your software and your companion products for the Dynamics ERP?
So True Sky, we're what's considered corporate performance management, or CPM, which really means we have functionality for budgeting, planning, forecasting, kind of the input side of things. Also reporting, dashboarding, and analytics. So we span that whole kind of range of functionality. And what we do is we let companies continue to leverage Excel, which they know and love for all of these business processes. And they can kind of continue to leverage that while reducing the administrative effort and all that kind of what we call drudgery of the process for a more robust and accurate budget.
Tell me a little bit about your product in terms of what ERPs do you integrate with? I know you integrate with Dynamics, but there's others, right?
Yeah, really how I like to describe it is, at the end of the day, if we can get our grubby little fingers at the data, it can become a data source for True Sky. So in the Dynamics world, we have connectors into GP, Nav, Sol, AX, as well as Business Central. We also connect with other ERPs. So in the Sage world, Intact, Sage 500, 300, 100, X3. We also integrate with Acumatica, NetSuite, some other ERPs out there as well. But then also keep in mind that our integrations are not just to ERP. They can be to any other data source that you have out there, or multiple data sources. So if you've got data in from an HR, from a ADP or Ceridian type point of view, we can connect with that. If you have your own warehouse management system or distribution system, we can connect to that as well. So we really are data source agnostic, but we do have all these connectors to help out customers get ramped up with True Sky.
Yeah, that's great. I know a lot of companies also use other reporting tools. Could True Sky be a source for another reporting tool? Like say they use Power BI for other reporting.
Yep. So our database is open, and when I say open, I don't mean it's insecure, right? So we have security around it, but we realize that most organizations have multiple tools that they're already using in their business, right? So the data that you're storing in True Sky for all your budgeting, forecasting, and planning can become a source for other tools, such as Power BI, or maybe a ClickView or a Tableau, any of those other kind of tools that you might be using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also too, about companies that maybe are migrating from one legacy system to another, it could be a repository too, couldn't it?
Absolutely. So again, we can bridge that gap as they're making those migrations. We can manipulate the data as needed to match their new systems and help bring all that together.
Yeah, and I've even seen some partners talking about clients that have multiple ERPs, right? They acquire a company or two, they're on some other, ERP or other accounting software. And so they break out the spreadsheets and they're doing consolidations, right? So it kind of is nice that they could really use through this tool a way to do their consolidations, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We have that with a lot of clients, right? You mentioned it when they go through acquisitions, right? They acquire a new company, but it's going to take, 6 months, a year, maybe even longer, depending on the size of the acquisition, to bring them into the fold on the corporate, system. So we give them that capability that you can be doing different data models for those different businesses. You acquire that new one, you can plug them into True Sky. Maybe they're standalone at the start, but all that data will then feed in based on the mapping that you put together into your main system. So again, we can help them with that transition as well, whether it be from a budgeting and forecasting or from a reporting point of view.
Can you share more details about the integration? So, how does it work? Is it, something that's scheduled? Is it on demand? Can they refresh it anytime? How does that work?
All right, I'll try to keep this without going on for hours and hours and hours. But in effect, we can tie into multiple different data sources again. So it doesn't just have to be the ERP. So we could be pulling data directly from, say, a SQL database. We could be pulling data from web services. We can even be pulling data in those situations where all you get is data out, from a source system that's in a CSV or an Excel file. Those can all be different data sources. All of that data can be mapped to your different budgeting and forecasting and reporting models, depending on how it needs to come together, and different data sources can be manipulated and brought together as one. These integrations can then be scheduled to run automatically. You can set it up to go once a night, once every 5 minutes, depending on how you want it to do, or just fire it on a manual basis, depending on what you want to do and what the particular situation is. Different data sources can be updated independently and on different timeframes. So again, we're trying to give you a lot of flexibility with True Sky and take away a lot of that manual effort that goes along with getting information out of your host system into your budgeting and forecasting templates.
Is there a difference between doing something and deploying it on-prem or in the cloud? What differences are people going to see there?
Okay, so from a True Sky point of view, there is absolutely no difference between deploying within True Sky Online, which is our online cloud offering, versus doing a True Sky deployment that you're doing on premises, right? It's the exact same application. You're not giving up any kind of features or functionality depending on where you're going to, source your system, where you're going to set your system. So really what that means is that you don't have to give up features and functions. You can deploy how you want to deploy based on what your IT mandate is. If your organization says, we're going to stick with on-premise deployments, great. Our solution will work for that. If your IT group is trying to go into the cloud, great. We can support you in the cloud and you don't give up anything. And you can also move. You can start with, on-premises and then move to the cloud, True Sky Online later on, or you could start with True Sky Online today. And if you decide you want to move it to on-premise, later on, you can do that as well. You're not giving up anything with the application. You're not losing any of your data, anything like that. So we give you that flexibility.
Mm-hmm. That's great. In what ways do you think your solutions help clients with solving particular problems?
Well, I think one of the biggest problems that clients face is a majority of the organizations out there, you're using Excel as your primary budgeting and forecasting tool. And Excel is a great tool. It's a great front end, but it's not a database. And you spend a huge amount of time trying to pull data out of your different data sources, manipulate it, put it into all these different formats just so you can roll up a budget. And then the more users you have, the more worksheets you have, you've got, more of those bad formulas, broken links, and everything else. So one of the things that True Sky does is we take away all of that pain. So we give you a lot less administration over the process. And if you're trying to get to the concept of going away from just doing a once a year budget or forecast to doing it quarterly or even doing it on a rolling monthly basis, doing it in Excel by itself is going to kill you. So one of the big pains that we take away with True Sky is because we automate all that stuff for you, is that your administration overhead is dropped dramatically and you can roll it out to more users easier with less effort.
Okay, well, maybe give a story. Tell us a story about a customer that was successful with your product and why.
Okay. Yeah. So one of our clients, they run a series of medical clinics, doctor's offices across their state. And they used to be budgeting with Excel. And they've got about 100 different people that are involved in the budget and forecasting cycle. And it was taking them forever to do a cycle. One of the things that they couldn't also do is because compensation, as you can imagine, when you've got a lot of doctors and nurses on staff, that compensation is a huge driver of their costs. In fact, compensation is probably something like 85% of all of their expenses. They had no way to budget and forecast compensation on a significant basis. They were doing it very high level. It was kind of a guess, and they couldn't even allocate it out to the different locations, the different specialties that they have. So now, thanks to True Sky, not only are they budgeting for their revenue and their traditional expenses, they can do detailed compensation planning. They're doing it for about 4,500 different employees, and they're allocating them over a different combination of about 160 different locations and specialties on which they operate. And that's given them a huge amount of detail that they didn't have to analyze where their costs are going to be, what their profits, what their net income is going to be, and then what their profit sharing is going to be as well. So we've given these tools that they absolutely did not have before. And I think that was a big success for them, a big win for them going forward.
That's a great story. I love how a lot of companies use Excel and then people fat finger, they overwrite each other's numbers. They're like, I don't own that number. That's not my number. So there's a lot of challenges with Excel, but it is a great tool. I mean, a lot of people are familiar with it. So I love that story. How have you seen customers' needs related to budgeting changed over this past year?
Well, I think what a lot of organizations are realizing, there's kind of been two big pressures on people. One is to start doing budgeting and forecasting more often. Okay. You've got a dynamic marketplace going on. And if you're only doing a budget once a year and you don't know where you're going to end up, when business changes happen, you need to be able to respond. So one of the big pressures is to start doing reforecasting on a real regular basis. So whether that be quarterly or even monthly. So that's a big pressure. And a lot of organizations are probably getting that from whether it be their board of directors or their financial institutions or some of their regulatory bodies. So that's one of the big ones that they're getting. The other, trend that we're seeing is people are trying to get, to stop doing the dollar-based budgeting and really get down to that driver-based, right? Because if you're trying to forecast sales quantities or production planning, you really need to get to the units and not the dollars, especially when there's so many ripple effects going on in the world today with things like supply chain and shortages and so forth. So people need to be forecasting, down to those, okay, how many units can we manufacture and how quickly and how fast can we adjust? So those are some of the big trends that we've seen change over the past year.
Oh, how have you seen the channel change, Stephanie, especially over this past year?
So I think, like Alan said, customers are looking for better budgeting and reporting. So I think that partners are reacting to that. They're trying to find more ways to get their customers valuable tools and then ways that they can help them. So I think that's a big change, and they need to engage their customers more and more. And then the obvious one is the shift from the in-person events to the more virtual events or webinars and that sort of thing. So, partners need new ways to chat with their customers and to connect and to add value. So we really tried to add, tons of resources that they can use and resources that they can kind of use and reuse. So, a blog post that can be repurposed into an ebook or a webinar, and, really get our partners to try different things and see what works best for their customers.
Yeah, I know we're getting into that budget season, so looking for materials to help them kind of get that message out while people are thinking about budgeting is a good thing. So tell me, why is True Sky software different than other products in this space, in the CPM space? Because I get that question all the time. What's different? What's unique about it?
Well, I think we've got a couple things that set us apart. So I think there's a few things that make True Sky different from some of the other applications that are out there. Now, earlier I was talking about all the problems that people have with Excel during budgeting and forecasting. But if you really look at it, Excel is probably the best end user interface to doing budgeting and forecasting out there, right? It's got a depth and breadth of feature and functionality that is unparalleled, and it is perfect for doing budgeting and forecasting. It just falls apart when you've got multiple users working on it and you're trying to do enterprise-wide budgeting. Well, True Sky, what we allow you to do is continue to use Excel as that end user interface. That makes your user adoption go really, really quick, and you get a leverage from all that knowledge that you already have about Excel. But we're not just Excel. We've got a full database at the back end. We give a security layer. We give direct integration to data sources. We've got approval workflows. So we kind of let you have the best of both worlds. You have that power of Excel, but then you get all that command and control that a centralized database system gives you. So that's one of the things that we bring to the table. The other thing that we spent a huge amount of time and effort trying to come up with a user interface to maintain and administer the system that was designed for the finance group to control in their organization. A lot of the other applications that are out there, you need to have developers on staff. You need to have IT professionals to manage the budgeting and forecasting process. We let the finance group run with it, so they can control everything from creating their own templates they're using for input sheets or reports, to managing security, to running their integrations and so forth. That's all geared for the administration group or the finance group to be able to run, not an IT professional. The other thing is we give you a lot of insight into the process, I think. And if you look at some of the kind of reports you can get back out, who has submitted what information, where does your budget stand in real time as people are still working on it, how are things rolling up? All the other stuff that you need to not just get raw numbers, but actually get useful information out of the system that you can make business decisions on. So I think those are some of the things that set us apart from some of the other applications that are out there.
So what do you think is different about your True Sky partner program, Stephanie?
A good question. I think there's a lot of things that set us apart and that we do kind of differently. And a big reason for that is that we came from the other side. We were a partner, so we know what's important. We know, what we liked as a partner. But first and foremost, we're very partner friendly. We take a partner first mentality all the time. We will not compete against our partners, and we really pride ourselves in that, and making sure that our partners are, at the forefront of our business. We also try to be really flexible. So there's not necessarily a one size fits all for all of our partners. Everyone wants to work a little bit differently, works with their customers differently. So we really try and do that, whether a partner wants to support just on the sales side of things, they want to implement, they want to do a little bit of both. We have options for all of those sorts of things. So I think that's a big difference with us. We also get a lot of really great feedback again on our material. We have a really fully loaded partner kit with tons of resources on the sales side of things, marketing, implementation, support, just making sure that our partners have really everything that they need. On the other side of things, obviously we have margins and incentives and really great ones. We're really competitive with that sort of thing. And we also ensure that, again, we're easy to work with. Our pricing structure is really easy for both partners and customers to understand. So ultimately, I think, our whole goal of our partner program is to be easy to work with, flexible, and make our partners look good, make them, really happy to recommend True Sky.
Based on your experience, any perspective you have to share on kind of CPM, corporate performance management, budgeting, reporting, forecasting, marketplace, and how customers are using that to improve their overall efficiency and optimize their systems?
I think one of the things, and this is what I see some organizations doing, and I think it's a really good way to approach it, is as an organization, I hear constantly, we want to budget more, we got to get more, we got to get more. And I would say you're spending a lot of time budgeting stuff in your organization that probably doesn't matter. Think of the old adage of the 80-20 rule, where 20% of your customers probably bring in 80% of your revenue, 20% of your expenses probably account for 80% of the dollars that you're spending, right? So instead of trying to budget and forecast for everything, I would really recommend that you find those things in your organization that are the key drivers of your business, that 20% that really makes a difference. That if you're off on those, your business is succeeding or failing, depending on how good you are at forecasting those. And those are what you should focus on, right? Get more people involved in the process that know that list of items really, really well, and really go hard at budgeting and forecasting those. Okay, that's where you spend your time and your effort. That other 80%, you take last year's budget, you roll it forward, you bump it up by 2%, 5%, whatever number it is, and don't worry about it, right? I've seen organizations, debate whether or not spending $5,000 or $6,000 on postage is the right value when their whole budget for the organization is $50 million, right? Those are immaterial dollars, and you're just wasting time. So that's one of the things that I think is a trend that needs to continue and people need to do is, focus and find those things that are really important to your organization. I talked a little about the other one a little earlier. You want to make sure that you are budgeting the drivers. How many quantities are we going to sell? What is our sales price going to be? Not the dollars, because the dollars can be misleading. And it's those quantity drivers, like how many units are going to determine, do you need to run another production line? Do you need to hire more assembly people? Do you need to get another, manufacturer overseas? Those are the ones that you need to focus on, right? And the other one is budgeting and forecasting more often, right? The world is changing rapidly, and where you thought you were going to be 3 months from now, tomorrow it could be vastly different. So you have to be budgeting and forecasting more often. And those are the trends. Those are what are going to help you be successful. Those are also the things that True Sky can help you with.
Yeah, that's really good advice to be able to involve people that really have impact. And I like that you said, do be prepared to focus on kind of the important things that run your business. So can you each summarize, I guess, in a couple sentences, what we discussed today and how True Sky and your solutions help partners and customers really grow their business?
So I think ultimately, with True Sky, your customers will get a really robust solution that helps them take their budgeting and forecasting to the next level. Like Alan said, there's so many ways that people need to improve, and with True Sky, we make it really easy to do that. From a partner side of things, we're a very flexible partner program, and we provide our partners with really everything that they need to be successful, to add value to their customers, and really be, another reason why their customers trust them. We have a great product and a great partner program that we can provide.
I would just add, from the technical point of view, we have a product that allows you to do budgeting, forecasting, reporting, deep dive analytics, and dashboarding, pulling data from multiple different data sources and really forecasting any kind or reporting on any kind of business process that you can think of, whether it be financial, revenue, compensation, capital expenditures, or projects. So you've got like one tool that can do that all. And whether it be from a partner point of view, where you want to learn one tool that you can offer to your customers that can do all that, so you don't have to learn and maintain multiple different tools, or from your customer who's trying to reduce the number of things that they're managing in-house, we give you that. And it's a tool that, again, is designed to integrate to multiple data sources, to be able to avoid that whole, duplication of effort where you have to enter data into one system and then re-enter it into the other. We take all of that pain away, and we give a solution that end users can pick up with literally minimal to no training, because it gives you that Excel environment, and you also get all that power. So from those are kind of the things that we do a little bit differently on the software side and the technology side that I think make True Sky, the ideal solution.
Great. Well, thank you, Alan and Stephanie, for joining us on ISV Talks today. And this is Stephanie's information if you want to reach out to her. And Stephanie, do you want to say anything, your last words here?
Yeah. So thank you, Carol. We're so happy to be here. And for any partners that need more information or want to learn a little bit more, feel free to reach out to me. We also have, like I said, tons of webinars on our website. We do have monthly partners only webinars. If you want to take a little deeper of a look into our partner program and see a demo, we'd love to have you on one of those.
Awesome. Well, thank you both, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thanks, Carol.
Thanks, Carol.
Take care.